We built our own world, coffee shops, park benches. He wanted to be an architect. I was going to study literature. We were a team. His hand in mine felt like the only true thing in the world. But my father didn't like him. He said Leo had no prospects. He said I'd be poor. The pressure was constant. Then, the night before I left for college, my father gave me an ultimatum. Break up with Leo or be cut off. I was scared. The fear felt heavier than my own heart. I made the safe choice. I wrote Leo a letter. I told him we were too young. I said it was too much. I lied in every sentence. I folded that letter and sealed it. I felt part of me seal up with it. I told myself it was the mature thing to do. It wasn't. It was cowardice. I mailed it and left for university, trying to be someone new. University was gray. I was a ghost. I looked for him everywhere. A year later, I heard he'd moved to Chicago. That distance felt like a punch. He was building his life, and I wasn't in it. Time moved on. I graduated. I became a teacher. I met a kind man named Robert. Robert was good. He was steady. He loved me in a quiet way. We married. It wasn't a grand passion. It was a quiet affection. We had a comfortable life. We had 2 beautiful children. They are my greatest joy. I loved Robert, but it was a different kind of love. Sometimes I looked at him, waiting for a spark. It never came. I'd hate myself for that. Decades passed like that. Robert passed away peacefully 15 years ago. Then last month, my granddaughter found an old magazine in my attic, an architectural digest. She said, "Look, Gran, this building is amazing." And there he was, Leo. His hair was gray, his face was lined, but his eyes were the same. The article called him an award-winning architect. It quoted him talking about the poetry of form, and it said he had never married. That night, the stone in my pocket turned to fire. I couldn't sleep. For 60 years, I had a quiet regret. Now, knowing he was alone too, it exploded. I hadn't just chosen safety. I had chosen wrong. All the sensible reasons melted away. I saw my comfortable house for what it was, a cage I built myself. I knew I had to find him. It took me a week to get the courage. I found his firm's number. My hand shook so bad I could barely dial. A receptionist answered. I asked for him. My voice didn't sound like mine. There was a pause, a click, then his voice, a voice I hadn't heard in 60 years. He said, "Hello?" I said, "Leo, it's Eleanor, from the bookshop." The silence was huge. Then he whispered, "I kept the umbrella." We agreed to meet, not for closure, just to talk. We met on a park bench. He was older, elegant. His smile was still my son. We talked for hours about his buildings, my students, the books we read. The love was still there, not a fire, but a deep, warm bedrock. When the sun set, he took my wrinkled hand. He said, "We had one life, Ellie, but we let it be 2 separate ones." He walked me to my car. We said goodbye. It felt like a full stop on a sentence we never finished. So here I am. The stone is out of my pocket now. I'm holding it in my hand. I see it clearly. I was afraid of my family, of being poor, of my own heart. I traded a symphony for a quiet hum. My children and grandchildren are my legacy. I cherish them. But Leo was my soul, and I gave him up. So if you're listening and you're holding the hand of someone who feels like your truth, don't let go. Don't make my mistake. Fear is a liar. Love is the only real prospect. Hold on, hold on. That's the advice, but it's too late for me. Let me tell you about the letter. I wrote it at my little desk by my window, a different window in my parents' house. My hands were shaking. I used my best stationery. I thought if the words looked neat, they'd feel true. I wrote that we were too young, that the world was too wide, that it was too much, too fast. Every sentence was a polished lie. I folded it, sealed the envelope, and I felt something seal up inside me too. I told myself it was the mature choice, the smart choice. Honestly, it was just cowardice wearing sensible shoes. I mailed it the next morning and got on the train to university. I tried to become someone new, someone who didn't need Leo. But university was all gray. The buildings, the sky, my mood. I studied, I made polite friends. But I was a ghost, just haunting my own life. I looked for him in every lecture hall, on every street corner. I'd see a tall boy with dark hair and my heart would stop, but it was never him. A year later, I heard through a friend of a friend that he'd moved to Chicago to study architecture. Chicago, it felt like another planet. The finality of it hit me like a physical blow. He was out there building his world, and I had carefully erased myself from the blueprint. Time just moved on. I graduated. I started teaching English at a high school, and I met Robert. Robert was a good man, a kind man. He taught history. He was steady. He loved me in a gentle, undemanding way. It wasn't the grand passion I'd known with Leo. It was a quiet affection. We married. We built a comfortable life in a nice house. We had 2 beautiful children. They are my greatest joy, my absolute pride. I loved Robert. I truly did. But it was a different verb, a quieter one. Sometimes I'd catch myself looking at him across the dinner table, waiting for a spark, a lightning bolt of feeling. It never came, and then I'd hate myself for making the comparison. It wasn't fair to him. He deserved better than that. He deserved a wife who wasn't always, in some secret corner of her heart, thinking of another man. Decades passed in that comfortable rhythm. Robert passed away peacefully in his sleep 15 years ago. I mourned him. I still miss his steady presence. After Robert died, the house got very quiet. I had my children, my grandchildren, but they had their own lives. The quiet was when the regret got loud. I'd make a cup of tea and sit by this window and just think. I'd think about that letter. I'd think about his face in the rain. For years it was a dull ache. Then my granddaughter found that magazine. She said, "He never married Gran." That's when it broke me. It wasn't just my regret anymore. It was ours. I had ruined 2 lives with my fear. I sat right here and I cried. I cried for him alone. I cried for me alone. I cried for the years we could have had. All those years. I called him because I had to say it. I had to say I was sorry. When he whispered, I kept the umbrella. I couldn't speak. He'd kept it for 60 years. I had thrown away the man, and he had kept the umbrella. We met on the bench. He was still Leo. We talked about everything and nothing. Then he said it. We had one life, Ellie, but we let it be 2 separate ones. That was the hardest moment, hearing him say it out loud. It was the truth. We let it. I let it. I chose wrong. I see that now. I traded everything for a safe, quiet cage. And the door was never even locked. I was just too scared to turn the handle. I was just too scared to turn the handle. Here's what I learned, sitting here with this stone in my hand. I was wrong about so many things. I was wrong that love was a luxury you could only afford after everything else was secure. I was wrong that my father's fear was wiser than my own heart. I thought prospects meant a salary, a house, a predictable path. But the only real prospect is waking up next to someone who feels like your true north. Leo was that, and I gave him up for a ghost of a future that never even came to pass. The security I bought with that choice was just an illusion. Life happens anyway. Illness comes, jobs change, children grow. The only thing that endures, if you're brave enough to hold on to it, is that deep, knowing connection. I had it. I held it in my hand in that bookshop, and I let it slip away. So my advice, especially if you're my age and looking back on your own choices, is this. Don't let fear make your decisions for you. Don't let other people's definitions of a good life drown out the quiet, persistent truth of your own. If you have someone in your life now, a friend, a partner, even a long-lost love, who makes your world feel real and right, don't perform. Don't overthink it. Just be there. Pick up the phone. Write the letter. Say the thing. Time is not endless, but what you have left is enough. It is always enough to be honest. It is always enough to try. My mistake was believing that love, to be real, had to be practical. But love is the foundation. Everything else is just the wallpaper. There is hope, even in this. It's not the hope of a second chance at 78. That ship has sailed, and we both know it. The hope is in the clarity. The hope is in finally understanding, after a lifetime, what truly mattered. It's in the peace of having spoken the truth to him, of having that last conversation where nothing was left unsaid. The love didn't die. It just lived in a different room of my heart all these years. And now I've opened the door. There's a sorrow in that, yes, but there's also a profound gratitude. I got to feel it at all. I got to know what it was to have a soul recognize its match. Many people go their whole lives without that, so I am not just a woman with a regret. I am a woman who was loved deeply and who loved in return. That is a story worth carrying. If my story has resonated with you, if it's touched a memory or a hope of your own, then please do something for me. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on those notifications. It means more stories like this can be shared. Stories of lives lived and lessons learned can find their way to people who need to hear them. If you felt something, tap that like button. It's a quiet way of saying, I understand, and I'd truly love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me, what is one choice you look back on with a different perspective now? Your stories matter. If you know someone who needs to hear this, a friend who is hesitating, a parent who is pressuring, a young person choosing between their heart and the sensible path, please share this with them. It might be the nudge they need. And if you have a story of love, loss, or a road not taken that you're ready to tell, we have a submission form linked below. Your voice could be the one that helps someone else find theirs. Maybe together we can learn to hold on a little tighter. Thank you for listening, truly.